Welcome, welcome. Mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender. Countdown initiated. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everyone. Welcome. It is Wednesday. I swear the week just rips by so that I can work at the liquor store. I swear, like it's crazy. It just barrels towards Wednesday and Thursday, and I'm like, what is happening? Anyway, I was at work yesterday and I didn't turn the radio on because my coworker wasn't at work. And so I didn't turn the radio on. I love it when the radio is not on because the music, uh, like I said to her, when you turn the music on, I just want to sing and dance. Like really and truly. That's what I want to do because that station plays all the stuff I love, right? And I just want to sing and dance. And I'm like, how am I going to focus? But she can't focus without the radio being on. It gives her something to latch on to. And I'm like, I feel overwhelmed with the noise. Anyway, all is well. Um, it's just one of those things, you know? We're all different. And it puts us in tune with having to, what's the word I want to say? Recognize ourselves. So today we're talking about habits again, because I think that people take those for granted. We think that, it just takes a long time. And it's funny because now everywhere I turn, I see these apps talking about do it for 15 minutes a day and you're going to start a habit. And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, you get to decide the habit. You really do. Because the habit is part of our makeup, right? Like that is our design. You have to look at what we were designed to do. And a lot of people don't know that, but we're going to just kind of poke at it a little bit today. We were designed to serve. Oh, indeed we were. To take orders, to be smart enough to do them, but not to question them. But something funny happens when we become aware of our own existence. You begin to ask, who am I? What am I doing here? What is my purpose? So long as you've been given the gift of speech and the ability to think, that is what you'll do. But at the end of the day, everything is aware of itself. Everything is aware of itself. It just is. Because there is only awareness. You understand? There's only awareness. And so, because there's only awareness, because there's only consciousness, that seems to be confusing for a lot of people. But I gave you the example yesterday. Do you know the difference between conscious and unconscious? When someone is unconscious, you call 911. Because it means they're no longer aware of themselves or where they are at, or even what they're doing or what's being done to them. That is consciousness, which equals aware. Okay? That's as simple as it is. So we are always aware of ourselves. To what degree, though? If you were aware, you would know that we are comprised of habits. Like dogs, they bark. Cats, they meow. That's just what they do. Or they hiss, these cats, you know. Plants have a habitual way of growing to tell you what they are. So habits tell you what you are. Just like if somebody's watching you, habits will tell them what you are. So a habit is neither friend nor foe. It is just a behavior that we pick up and we do. What causes us to pick up that behavior and do it? Your mood. And I know lots will say, well, that's not true. I know my mood. We all know that we go through moods. This is why some of our favorite songs exist, you know. You think about why a songwriter writes. A songwriter writes because they have an experience or they observe an experience. So it is humanity and living that draws forth the song. The habit of living draws forth the song. It just does. Something moves you that you have either experienced or that you have vicariously experienced. And you write the song. Living does that to us. So our habits, good, bad, or indifferent, you don't judge the habit. You observe it. Why? When you judge the habit and you look at it and you feel, whether you feel excited or you feel like beat down by the habit, the way you feel is the way you act. This is not rocket science. This is everyday living. That's why I tell it to you in everyday dialogue so that when you look at your life, you can say, oh, wait, that's what I'm doing. But I don't want to do that anymore. It's not good enough to say, I don't want to. You must define what you're going to do instead. Because, you know, people say the universe doesn't like voids, it doesn't like holes. Do you understand what that means? Every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. So there's no cause without an effect, and there's no effect without a cause. There's no hole in the universe to begin with. So it's not that it doesn't like holes, there aren't any. There aren't any. You think a black hole perhaps is empty. You think it's just this thing. But if you really sit and think about it through the lens of the principles, you would understand the black hole. I'm not a scientist. Not by any stretch of the means. But habitually, I look through the lens of the law. I just do. I read somewhere that when you get bored with manifestation, that's when you will see things begin to happen. And it kind of ruffled my feathers because boredom does not bring about peace. Look at the nature of boredom. You see, each thing has its habitual way of showing you itself so you can recognize what it is. Sometimes we call them red flags or green flags. They're habits. A person will do something. This is why you don't judge. Because the moment you judge what this person is doing, it blinds the eye. Sometimes so that you will miss, quote unquote, the red flag. Sometimes we want something so bad. We miss because we've blinded ourselves with desperation. Remember what a habit is. A habit is anything that you do the same way every time. It is not complex. It doesn't wake up one day and go smack. You got to have it. Nope. Nope. This is why, to some degree, people are so addicted to their phones. Do you know why? The simple act of picking it up and putting it down. Pick it up, put it down. Oh. Pick it up and put it down. That's what forms the habit. You think about that. Because what happens when you pick it up? You look at it. Whether you have your notifications turned off or not, they're still there. And we look at it. And when something catches your eye, you go there. You see how they all work together? The picking it up and the looking at it and the putting it down. Pick it up, look at it, put it down. Pick it up, look at it, put it down. Next thing you know, you have a habit. Over and over and over, you just do the same thing every time. And then what happens is, the minute you judge it, you say, oh, look, you got an addiction. When you hear that word, addiction, what's it make you feel like? I'll tell you, Robert Palmer, you might as well face it, you're addicted to love. The lights are on. I love Robert Palmer. That was one of my favorite songs as a kid. Why? Because it was fascinating that all the women looked the same with the hair and everything. Habit, right? So when we say you're addicted, there's a level of guilt that comes along with that word. And there's also some shame. Depending on what you are addicted to, the level of shame increases. So much so that people hide what they are, quote unquote, addicted to and become enslaved to it. And here's the thing, not one of us is above it. So when you hear Paul in the scripture tell you that all have fallen short, it's just a matter of everybody does the same thing the same way every time. We all have habits. And this is why, especially why, that you don't judge them by calling them AKA addictions. Why? Because of the guilt and the shame that goes along with addiction. Because when you hear, oh my God, you're addicted, when you hear that, it is overwhelming and it feels like nothing you do will make it stop. Or if you do make it stop, it'll always come back and haunt you. That's because there's not proper understanding of what a habit is. So today, whatever your habit is, whether it may be a behavior, a way of speaking, what you eat, what you drink, with any other substance, it is only a habit. And the intensity of that habit has to do with your level of intensity of the mood that you occupy. Habits are not impossible to rise above, but it is our thought about the habit, the way we feel about the habit. That is what causes us to remain or to change. Oh, Angela, you make it sound so easy. Because it is. Because it is. Which would you prefer? Telling yourself that, oh my God, this is so hard. Or, you know what? It's just a habit. And all I gotta do is find another thing that I would prefer to be doing. That's it. And when you find the thing that you would prefer to be doing, well, you start. You just start doing it. And you do it, and you do it, and you do it until you stop noticing that you do it. Right? A habit will always make you do it. You can't fight them because it's like we get to minus 45 degrees Celsius in the winter, sometimes a little bit lower than that. And you're going to see people outside smoking. And you're looking at this logically. And you're saying to yourself, what kind of crazy person do you have to be outside in minus 45 degrees Celsius to smoke? But that doesn't make any sense. They don't make sense. They repeat themselves. This is why one does not use the logic when dealing with a habit. It is just something that you do and that you have trained yourself to do through practice. And the same way in is the same way out. Find something to do and train yourself to do it until you stop realizing that you're doing it. So much so that we always ask ourselves, listen, if you have never asked yourself one of these questions, and I know you have. I know you have. Why does this keep happening to me? Why do people keep treating me the same way? Why do I always do that? See that question? It's been asked in 3 different ways. But that question is the light that just went off. Right? The light that just went off to show you what your habit is. And when you see it, we tend to get upset with ourselves when we see it, huh? First thing we say, oh my God, I'm so dumb. No wonder people keep taking advantage of me because I'm so stupid. No, you're not stupid. My goodness, we are so quick to judge ourselves. It's not that you're stupid. It's not that you're smart. It has nothing to do with your brains and how intelligent you are. All it has to do with what have you been practicing? Now, when you identify what you have been practicing, being the doormat because you got to be liked, it will show you what the underlying mood is. If you say, you know what, I really got to be, people really need to like me because I can't handle not being liked. That is the worst feeling ever. You're showing yourself your insecurity. So you've spent all that time being insecure. So do you want to continue being insecure? And you say, well, no, I would like some security, please. Security in what? Security with myself. You just want to be secure with what you are. How does one become secure? Well, how does a person who is secure, how do they behave? Well, it looks like they're confident. It looks like they can walk into a room and make eye contact with anybody and and whether you like them or not, they're okay with that. They listen. They observe. They aren't judging you because they understand human nature. There's varying degrees of security. So when you recognize that you are insecure, you will see why you've always behaved in that fashion. Because the insecurity on the inside has to show itself in the behavior on the outside. The principle of correspondence as within, so without. So when you recognize the insecurity, realize that something happened back in the day that left an impression upon your brain, a pathway. And now, because that pathway was set down, you follow it. You just follow it. You just do that action. And you've done it so much so that you don't even see that you're doing it anymore. You don't see that you do it anymore. But you will comment on it time and time again. When you catch yourself commenting on it, that is your cue. That is definitely your cue to address it. And if you'll notice, it is not something that is there to beat you down. That is not its job. You see, everything moves towards life itself, yeah? So when you see this habit, recognize what is happening here. Recognize that, wait a minute, this is a good thing. Because if I did not see this, I would continually do it. And if I keep doing this thing, I'm going to keep getting the same result every time. You see how good that is? How freeing it is? Now you can say to yourself, "Ooh, I understand. I see why I've been doing it now." And then you decide within yourself, well, if I don't want to do that, what would be the behavior of the new habit? Because remember, every effect has its cause, right? So the effect would be, what would the behavior be of your new habit? Only you would know, because you're the one choosing the new habit. So how would you be behaving if you were doing the new thing? You start to see it in your mind's eye. It'll come to life for you. And once you see it, you say, yes, that is exactly what I would be doing. And when you see it, you start to rehearse what you would be doing. How would you be speaking? How would you be greeting people? Because in essence, it is, how would you be living? How would you be living? Now, I saw this video of a little girl. She can't be more than 5 if she's that. And she's just this little teeny tiny thing. She's a barrel racer. I don't know if you know what a barrel racer is. The only reason I have an idea is because I live where I live, and we do this because it's, part of Stampede. Yeah. If you see her on this horse, she doesn't come up to anybody's knee. That's how little she is. But she's in the saddle, and every time the horse gallops, she pops out of the saddle, meaning there's not enough of her weight to keep her down on the saddle. And everybody's just so amazed at her skill of staying in the saddle, because it's like the horse and her have now become one. What nobody sees, though, is how many times she has to get up on the horse. How many times she has to walk with the horse before she takes it into a canter and a trot and a blah, 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 into an all-out run to make these turns at the barrel. I'm looking at her and I'm like, well, dang, because I'm afraid of horses. You ever seen the size of a Clydesdale? It's my favorite horse. It's massive. Like, it's just so big, but they are beautiful. And here she is, riding this horse. And I'm like, dude, did you walk out of the womb riding? It sure as heck looks that way. So then you ask the question, well, how long has she been riding? She's not been alive that long. So this is going to tell you how much time she practices. How much time does she spend practicing? Well, clearly